The quantum stabilizer hummed with an unsettling frequency as Nathan Reed made the final adjustments to his experimental setup. The basement laboratory at Quantum Horizon Industries wasn't much, but it was all he had after the academic community labeled his theories too radical. 3 years of independent research had led to this moment, his first attempt at quantum teleportation without a receiving pad. Recording test sequence 2749, he spoke into his tablet. Implementing the modified Schrödinger-Reed equation for unrestricted quantum tunneling. His fingers danced across the holographic interface, initializing the power sequence. Outside, the autumn wind whistled through the trees of suburban Seattle, but inside, the air crackled with possibility. The target object, a simple red apple, sat in the containment chamber. Nathan had chosen it as a homage to Newton, though he doubted the father of classical physics would have approved of his attempts to bend spacetime. The quantum stabilizer's pitch increased as it approached full power, and Nathan felt the familiar tingle of excitement mixed with anxiety. Initiating sequence in 3, 2, 1. The apple began to glow with a soft blue light, exactly as his calculations had predicted. But then something went wrong. The blue shifted to a brilliant purple, and the air itself seemed to fold inward. Nathan's instruments screamed with readings that shouldn't have been possible as reality itself appeared to tear open. He dove for the emergency shutdown, but before he could reach it, a blast of purple energy knocked him backward. As he scrambled to his feet, the light faded, revealing not just his apple, which had somehow remained perfectly intact, but also an unconscious young woman lying on the laboratory floor. Her appearance was almost human, except for the faint, iridescent patterns that seemed to shift beneath her skin like the surface of a soap bubble. She wore what looked like a form-fitting suit made of material that shimmered between silver and purple. "Oh God," Nathan muttered, checking her pulse. It was there, but different, faster than a human heartbeat, with an odd double rhythm. Her skin felt cool to the touch, and up close, he could see that her hair wasn't just platinum blonde, it had subtle hints of lavender that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. The woman's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of deep violet that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. She sat up abruptly, looking around in confusion before focusing on Nathan. When she spoke, her voice had an ethereal quality, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Where am I?" she asked in perfect English, though her accent was unlike anything Nathan had ever heard. "Who am I?" Nathan's scientific mind raced with questions, but his humanity won out. "You're safe," he said softly, helping her to a sitting position. "I'm Nathan Reed. You're in my laboratory in Seattle, Earth. Do you remember anything about how you got here?" She pressed her hands to her temples, wincing. "Everything's fragmented. I see stars. Different stars than yours. A mission, something important. But it's all broken pieces." Her eyes widened suddenly. "My name. I think it's Astrid." "Yes, Astrid. But everything else." She looked at him with a mixture of fear and hope. "Please, you have to help me remember." Nathan glanced at his instruments, which were still recording impossible readings, then back at the mysterious woman. His experiment had clearly done something far beyond its intended purpose, perhaps opening a gateway between worlds. The scientist in him was fascinated, but there was something else too, a connection he couldn't explain. "I'll help you," he found himself saying. "We'll figure this out together." He helped her to her feet, noting how she moved with an unconscious grace that seemed almost weightless. "But first, we need to get you somewhere safe. My apartment's above the lab, we can talk there." As they climbed the stairs, Nathan's mind raced with implications. His experiment hadn't just proven quantum teleportation was possible, it had somehow reached across space itself to bring Astrid here. But why? And what was the mission she'd mentioned? The security cameras caught Astrid's arrival from multiple angles, and Nathan knew he'd be reviewing that footage for days. But right now, his priority was helping this mysterious woman who had literally fallen into his life. Something told him that her arrival wasn't an accident, and that the fate of more than just their two lives might hang in the balance. Little did he know that at that very moment, various instruments around the world were recording the same strange purple energy signature that had accompanied Astrid's arrival. And in a secure facility thousands of miles away, those readings were already triggering a series of carefully planned protocols that would soon change everything. The night wind continued to whistle outside, but to Nathan, it now seemed to carry whispers of other worlds, and the promise of adventures he'd never imagined possible. 3 days had passed since Astrid's mysterious arrival, and Nathan's apartment had become a sanctuary of discovery. Empty teacups littered his desk, testament to their long conversations about quantum physics, space, and the fragments of memory that kept surfacing in Astrid's mind. The more time they spent together, the more Nathan realized she wasn't just lost, she was extraordinary. The equations, Astrid said, pointing to Nathan's whiteboard covered in complex mathematical formulas. They're similar to something. Her finger traced a pattern in the air, leaving a faint purple trail that lingered for seconds before fading. She didn't seem to notice she was doing it, but Nathan watched in fascination. Similar to what? He asked, trying to keep his voice casual despite his racing heart. Every time Astrid did something unexplainable, like the energy trails or making his coffee mug hover absent-mindedly, he had to resist the urge to bombard her with questions. There was a chamber, she said slowly, her galaxy-like eyes unfocused. Massive crystals pulsing with energy. We used them for. She pressed her hands to her temples, wincing. It's gone again. Nathan moved to comfort her but stopped when his quantum scanner began beeping urgently. The device hadn't stopped recording since Astrid's arrival, but this was different. The energy readings were spiking. Astrid gasped, her back arching as if struck by electricity. The iridescent patterns beneath her skin flared brilliantly, and her eyes blazed with purple light. When she spoke, her voice echoed as if coming from multiple sources at once. Protocol 7 enacted. Emergency temporal displacement successful. Royal bloodline secured. Awaiting diplomatic restoration sequence. The words spilled out in a language Nathan had never heard, yet somehow he understood them. Before he could respond, Astrid collapsed. He caught her just before she hit the ground. Nathan, she whispered when her eyes fluttered open moments later, I remembered something. I'm not just a visitor. I'm an emissary. There's a council, my people, they sent me here for a reason. A sharp knock at the door made them both jump. Nathan helped Astrid to the couch before approaching the door cautiously. Through the peephole, he saw a woman in a crisp business suit, flanked by 2 men in dark glasses. Dr. Reed, the woman called out. This is Director Blackwood from the Department of Extraterrestrial Research and Defense. We need to discuss the energy signature your lab emitted 3 days ago. Nathan's mind raced. He'd been careful to keep his research off the grid, but clearly not careful enough. He looked back at Astrid, who nodded slowly. They've been watching, she said softly. Since before I arrived. There's something bigger happening, Nathan. Something that connects your world and mine. Another knock, more insistent this time. Dr. Reed, we can protect you both, but we need to act quickly. Others are coming, ones who don't share our peaceful intentions. Nathan helped Astrid to her feet. As they stood together, facing the door, the quantum scanner began beeping again. But this time, similar alerts started coming from devices throughout the apartment, his phone, his tablet, even his old microwave. Every screen displayed the same message. Convergence imminent. Timeline Alpha 7 activated. Astrid's hand found Nathan's, her cool fingers intertwining with his. Whatever happens next, she said, trust that I chose to come here. To find you. Nathan squared his shoulders and reached for the door handle. As he did, Astrid's other hand pressed against the window glass, and for a split second, he saw their reflection, a human quantum physicist and an alien diplomat, both caught in something far larger than themselves. Outside, the Seattle skyline shimmered with an aurora of purple light that shouldn't have been possible on Earth. The door opened, and with it, the real story began. Director Blackwood's smile didn't reach her eyes as she stepped into Nathan's apartment. "Dr. Reed, your experiment succeeded beyond anyone's expectations." Her gaze shifted to Astrid, narrowing slightly. "Though I doubt even you anticipated this outcome." The two men flanking her remained by the door, their posture rigid. Nathan noticed their hands hovering near concealed weapons. Before he could respond, Astrid stepped forward, her presence suddenly commanding. "You've been monitoring the quantum frequency shifts," she said, not a question but a statement. "Since the lunar signal 19 months ago." Blackwood's composure slipped for just a moment. "How did you?" "Because my people sent it," Astrid interrupted. Another memory surfaced, and her iridescent patterns pulsed with emotion. "A test signal. To gauge Earth's readiness for contact. But something went wrong. The response we received was..." She faltered, pressing her hand to her forehead. Nathan moved closer to her, protective. "What response?" "A declaration of war," Blackwood answered grimly. "Or at least, that's what both sides believe they received." She pulled out a tablet, displaying a complex waveform. "This is the signal we sent back, a simple acknowledgement pattern. But by the time it reached its destination, it was corrupted," Astrid breathed, her eyes wide with recognition. The quantum signature was altered, transformed into a threatening message. She turned to Nathan. "That's why I'm here. Not just as an emissary, as a last hope. My people are preparing for war, believing Earth struck first." The quantum scanner suddenly shrieked, its display flashing red. Through the window, they could see more purple auroras dancing across the sky, more intense than before. "We're out of time," Blackwood announced, checking her own device. "They're already here, advanced scouts from both sides." The corrupted signals drew attention from other interested parties. "Dr. Reed, your quantum teleportation research is the key. It's not just about moving matter through space. It's about pure information transfer," Nathan finished, his mind racing. The quantum entanglement field could be used to broadcast the truth to both sides simultaneously, proving the signals were tampered with. Astrid's eyes lit up with hope, but then she staggered, caught by Nathan as another memory surfaced violently. "The Stellar Council, my father." Her voice trembled. "I remember now. I'm not just an emissary. I'm Princess Astrid of the Luminari High Command, and I chose exile to stop this war." The building shook as something massive passed overhead, its shadow briefly darkening the room. One of Blackwood's men spoke urgently into his earpiece. "Director, we have multiple bogies entering atmosphere. Military's going dark. It's starting. We need to move," Blackwood commanded. "There's a secure facility." "No," Nathan interrupted, looking at his quantum stabilizer. "Everything we need is in my lab. The quantum field is still active from when Astrid arrived. If we can reverse the polarity and use her genetic quantum signature as a carrier wave, we could broadcast the truth directly into the quantum communication networks of both sides," Astrid finished his thought. Their eyes met, understanding flowing between them. "But using my biosignature that way, it could kill me." Nathan's heart clenched. "There has to be another way." Another tremor shook the building, stronger this time. Through the window, they could see military jets scrambling, their contrails crisscrossing the purple-tinged sky. Somewhere in the distance, sirens began to wail. "There isn't time for another way," Astrid said softly, squeezing Nathan's hand. The iridescent patterns under her skin pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. "My people have a saying, the stars guide us all to the same dawn. Blackwood's phone chirped. Her face went pale as she read the message. Multiple ships detected on approach. We have less than an hour before they enter weapons range. Nathan looked at his equipment, then at Astrid, seeing not just an alien princess but the woman he'd grown to care for deeply over these few extraordinary days. She smiled at him, and in her galaxy-filled eyes, he saw both fear and determination. "Your lab," she said firmly. "Now." As they rushed down to the basement laboratory, the sky continued to darken with approaching ships, and the aurora grew more intense. The fate of two worlds now rested on an impossible plan, a forbidden love, and a quantum signal that would either save everything or destroy it all. Nathan's fingers flew across the holographic interface, reprogramming the quantum stabilizer while Astrid connected herself to the machine using threads of purple energy that flowed from her fingertips. Director Blackwood coordinated with her team, monitoring the approaching ships through a series of encrypted feeds. "Lunar defensive grid is active," she reported grimly. 15 minutes until the first wave enters firing range. The Luminary fleet has already pushed past Mars. The basement laboratory hummed with power, equipment salvaged from years of rejected research now serving as humanity's last hope. Nathan looked up from his calculations to see Astrid's face illuminated by the pulsing quantum field. Even now, preparing to risk everything, she was beautiful in a way that transcended worlds. "The carrier wave is aligned," he announced, trying to keep his voice steady. "But Astrid, these power levels, your consciousness will be stretched across the quantum network. No one has ever attempted quantum broadcasting on this scale." Astrid met his gaze, her galaxy eyes swirling with emotion. "My father always said that true leadership means being willing to sacrifice everything for peace." She stepped closer to him, the iridescent patterns beneath her skin matching the rhythm of the quantum field. "But Nathan, there's something you need to know before we do this." A distant explosion rocked the building. Blackwood's phone lit up with alerts. "Orbital defense satellites are engaging the advanced scouts. We're out of time." "The corruption of the signals," Astrid continued urgently, gripping Nathan's hands. "It wasn't an accident. There's a faction, spanning both our peoples, who want this war. They call themselves the Convergence. My father discovered their existence, which is why he sent me, his only heir, to find the truth." Nathan's mind raced. "That's why you came through my quantum experiment. You weren't just looking for any human contact." "I was looking for you," she confirmed. "The Convergence couldn't corrupt your quantum signature because your equations, they're pure. Untainted. Like you." She touched his face gently. "My memories were blocked to protect the mission, but my heart, it knew." The quantum stabilizer's pitch increased as the power built. Through the small basement window, they could see purple auroras painting the sky blood red. Blackwood's team worked frantically at their stations, coordinating with what remained of Earth's defenses. "Energy readings are off the charts," Nathan warned, checking the displays. "Astrid, if we do this, I don't know if I can bring you back." She smiled sadly. "Some things are worth any price." Then she kissed him, her lips cool against his, the contact sending quantum ripples through the air around them. When she pulled away, there were tears in her galaxy eyes. "But I need you to promise me something. Anything. If this works, if we expose the Convergence and stop the war, my people will need a new kind of leader. Someone who understands both worlds. Someone with a pure heart and a brilliant mind." She pressed something into his hand, a small crystal that pulsed with the same iridescent light that flowed beneath her skin. "Astrid, no. Promise me you'll come find me," she whispered. "When the dust settles. When both our worlds are ready. Promise me you'll remember that some bonds transcend space and time." Before Nathan could respond, proximity alarms blared. Blackwood shouted something about incoming fire. The quantum field surged with impossible power as Astrid stepped into the center of the containment chamber. "Now, Nathan," she commanded, her voice carrying echoes of royal authority. "Broadcast the truth. Show them all what love between worlds can accomplish." Their eyes met one last time as Nathan's hand moved to the activation switch. In that moment, he saw not just the alien princess who had fallen into his life, but a future that stretched across galaxies, if only they could survive the next few minutes. The quantum stabilizer reached critical power. Astrid's form began to glow with blinding purple light. And as Nathan initiated the broadcast sequence, he made a silent vow that this wouldn't be their end. After all, he was the scientist who had broken the laws of physics to find her. He would break them again to bring her back. The quantum stabilizer erupted with brilliant purple light as Astrid's consciousness merged with the broadcast field. Her physical form became translucent, each iridescent pattern beneath her skin blazing like a constellation. Nathan watched in awe and terror as the love of his life transformed into pure quantum energy. Through the basement window, they could see massive ships breaking through the clouds, their hulls gleaming with otherworldly metals. But as Astrid's quantum signal reached full power, every screen in the laboratory began displaying the same message in both human and luminary script. Truth protocol initiated. Quantum broadcast active. "It's working," Blackwood breathed, watching as the corrupted signal data streamed across her monitors. "The true messages, they're reaching both fleets simultaneously." Nathan barely heard her. His attention was fixed on Astrid's dissolving form, her galaxy eyes now pools of pure light. The crystal she had given him pulsed warmly in his hand, beating in rhythm with the quantum field. Suddenly, all communications channels burst open. Voices in multiple languages filled the lab, overlapping in confusion and then understanding as the truth of the convergence's deception became clear. The approaching ships slowed, their weapons powering down. "Both fleets are standing down," Blackwood reported, relief evident in her voice. "The Luminary High Command is requesting direct communication. They're asking about their princess." But Nathan had already sprung into action. The moment the broadcast had completed, he'd begun recalibrating the quantum stabilizer, his fingers flying across the holographic controls. The crystal in his hand grew warmer, almost humming with energy. "The quantum signature," he muttered, plugging equations into the system. "It's not just a carrier wave, it's a beacon. A way home." He looked up at Astrid's fading form. "And I promised I'd find you." Director Blackwood stepped forward. "Dr. Reed, what are you doing?" "What I do best," he replied, not looking up from his work. "Breaking the laws of physics." The crystal flared to life as he integrated it into the quantum circuit. On his screens, new equations wrote themselves, luminary quantum mathematics merging with his own theories. The stabilizer's hum changed pitch, harmonizing with the crystal's frequency. "Her consciousness is still in the quantum field," Nathan explained, hope rising in his voice. "The broadcast didn't destroy her, it transformed her. And with her royal genetic signature in this crystal." A blinding flash of purple light filled the laboratory. When it faded, Astrid stood in the containment chamber, solid and real. Her galaxy eyes opened, finding Nathan immediately. "You found me," she whispered, her voice carrying echoes of the quantum realm. Nathan rushed to her, supporting her as she stepped out of the chamber on shaky legs. "I'll always find you." Director Blackwood's phone chirped with urgent messages. "The Luminary High Command is sending a diplomatic vessel. They're requesting." "Tell them their princess has chosen her ambassador to Earth," Astrid interrupted, her hand finding Nathan's. The iridescent patterns beneath her skin danced with joy. "Tell them I've found the bridge between our worlds." In the days that followed, as ships from both fleets hung peacefully in Earth's orbit, the true work began. The Convergence's members were exposed and arrested on both worlds. Nathan's quantum theories, combined with luminary technology, opened new paths of communication and cooperation between the civilizations. And in a quiet moment, as they stood on the roof of Quantum Horizon Industries watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold, Astrid turned to Nathan with a smile that held infinite possibilities. "You know," she said, her galaxy eyes twinkling, "there's an old luminary saying, the universe conspires to bring twin stars together." Nathan pulled her close, feeling the quantum warmth of her presence. "I think Earth has a similar saying, love transcends all boundaries." Above them, the first joint human luminary space station caught the sun's light, a shining symbol of two worlds united. And as Astrid and Nathan shared a kiss that bridged galaxies, the quantum crystal pulsed with the promise of adventures yet to come. For in the end, it wasn't just about saving two worlds from war. It was about proving that love, whether born on Earth or among distant stars, had the power to transform everything it touched. And as the evening star rose over Seattle, its light seemed to wink at the couple who had rewritten not just the laws of physics, but the very story of what was possible when two hearts beat as one across the quantum reaches of space and time. The end.